Yesterday, we talked about a tool that is available to you to help you improve your relationship with food, which is food journaling. And today I want to talk about another tool that I think gets very misunderstood, which is the scale. The scale tells you one thing. It tells you your relationship to gravity. That's it. It can't tell you how much muscle you have. It cannot tell you how much fat you carry or where you're carrying it. It cannot tell you the state of your bone density. It gives you a single number and lets you draw whatever conclusions your mood that morning decides to attach to it. So today I want to make the case for a much more meaningful metric and why avoiding data altogether is not the neutral, peaceful choice that you might think it is. Welcome to your daily hit of grace and grit, your quick dose of inspiration to kickstart your day. I'm Courtney Townley, and here is today's hit. Body composition is exactly what it sounds like. What your body is actually made up of: muscle, fat, bone, water, and where that fat is distributed. Because visceral fat is the fat stored around your organs, right? It carries very different health implications than subcutaneous fat, which is stored under the skin. This matters a lot because two women can weigh the exact same amount and be the same height and have completely different body compositions and completely different health profiles. One might have significantly more muscle and less fat. One might have more visceral fat and be at higher metabolic risk. The scale would tell you nothing about that difference. But when you know your body composition, you have actual data you can act on, data that tells you whether you're building muscle, losing muscle, or holding steady. Data that gives your efforts context and meaning. There's a whole conversation in wellness culture about being too fixated on numbers. And if you've read my book, you know that I speak to something similar in that data does not tell you the whole story about your health. And there is real wisdom in not getting too fixated on numbers, because a lot of people can use data as weapons against themselves. You know what I'm talking about, ladies, because we've all done it. And we even addressed this yesterday in the conversation around food journaling. But there's an equally large and less discussed problem on the other side, which is women who avoid data altogether. Avoiding data is not the same as having a peaceful relationship with your body. For a lot of women, it's actually avoidance dressed up as self-acceptance. It feels neutral. It isn't. When you don't have data, you don't have accountability. You don't have a baseline. You can't track progress or regression. You're essentially navigating your health with your eyes closed and calling it intuition. That's a problem. That's not useful to you. We don't want to get fixated and obsessed about data, but we also don't want to avoid it, especially in midlife when changes in muscle mass, bone density, and fat distribution are happening, whether you're paying attention to it or not. So what are your options for actually measuring body composition? Well, first, let me say that I have had lots of clients over the last 5 to 10 years that avoided body composition testing for a long time. And they finally did it. And they were also glad that they did it because it told them a lot of information they never would have had otherwise. And data can be a massive motivator. So a DEXA scan is one of the gold standards. Hydrostatic testing is probably the gold standard, but most people don't have access to that. A DEXA scan measures bone density, which is really important to know at midlife, but it also can measure lean mass and fat mass with a high degree of accuracy and shows you exactly where fat is distributed in your body. A lot of radiology centers offer this. So you could call, your physician's clinic, you could call a local hospital or even a local university and see if they have DEXA scan options for you. If you can get one, I highly recommend it. An in-body scan, which is a bioelectrical impedance machine, and there's a lot of other machines. In-body is just one brand. They're often found in gyms, functional medicine clinics, and some wellness centers. They're a lot more accessible. They're a lot cheaper, and they give you a solid snapshot, right? It's not like the creme of the creme, but it's definitely is going to give you what you need to know. Muscle mass, fat mass, water mass. It's not quite as precise as a DEXA, but it's far more informative than a standard scale. And on the note of scales, right, scales that measure your body composition, they are using a form of bioelectrical impedance, which is basically a current that runs through your body to measure the water mass of different tissues. And it's interesting because I've had a few clients recently go get an in-body scan at, a wellness center. And when they compare that against the data of their BIA scale at home, it's not that far off. So I think that the mechanics of home scales that offer body fat testing have definitely come a long way. And even a simple combination of measurements can go a long way, right? Measure your waist circumference, your waist to hip ratio, tracking how your clothes fit. All of that can give you more context than the scale alone ever can. The point is information. Getting data is one step. Using that data wisely is the second step. So how do you use it wisely? How do you use the data from a body composition test wisely? Well, use it as a baseline, not a verdict, right? It's just showing you where you're starting from. It's giving you radical awareness of your current reality. And that's all you need to know right now. Then over time, hopefully you're applying yourself in the areas that data is suggesting you put some effort in. And you start tracking trends over time, not day-to-day fluctuations, right? Body composition shifts over weeks and months. It does not shift overnight. 1 percentage point of your body fat is multiple pounds. So one measurement means very little, but a series of measurements tells a story. So let that data over time inform your training. If you're losing muscle, which is extremely common in midlife, especially for women who are not strength training, it can change what you prioritize or how you go about your workouts. The point is to let the data motivate you, not punish you. Data is neutral. It is not good or bad. Data is neutral. Now, what you make it mean can be good or bad, right? What you do with that data is the variable. So you deserve to know what is happening in your body, not obsess over it, not judge yourself for it, but understand it well enough to take care of it. The scale has had its moment, right? And I'm not saying don't weigh yourself. I've done lots of episodes on this podcast about the scale and the value of the scale. If you're using it for the right reasons and in the right dose. But it's a limited tool that when we're only using that tool, it can really affect our relationship with our body because it's not giving us the deeper information that something like body composition testing can give us. So go get a body composition test, know your numbers, and use that knowledge to build the healthiest, strongest version of yourself, not to tear yourself down, but to show up for yourself in a more devoted capacity. That's what data's for. If this stirred something inside of you, imagine what a whole book of clarity and courage could ignite. The Consistency Code, a midlife woman's guide to deep health and happiness, goes even deeper into the mindset and practices that create real, meaningful change at midlife. Grab your copy today over at theconsistencycode.com. and keep the momentum alive.